Bonnie wants to know who is the most famous entertainer besides you that you have ever sung with. Who do you think is the most famous? You've been with a lot of people on stage
That's a hard question.
and on record. You've sung with a lot of people.
Well, Vince for one. I got many. um, Gosh, I sang on Dolly's record.
That's very
Dolly
cool.
Parton. Goodness gracious, she's a big star, movie star too, and there's so many that I would been influenced by. Um, wow, what can I say?
Just a very long
That's
list.
just to mention a couple. You know, Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn, yes.
Uh, the list goes on. George Jones.
George
Better
Jones.
not forget that one. I mean, I, you know, you don't seem to miss me. I miss him badly. He
Oh,
sang on
I
that
know.
song, and you know, it's great. It was a great song, and when I sung it, we Emery and I always did a little demo at the house before we went in the studio with the musicians because we always put the song down like we wanted to put it down in the studio. And when I sang the song, I went, "Yeah, it's a good song," but. And then when Emery says, maybe we can get George to sing on it, I went, are you kidding me? And then when we were in the studio and George was putting his part on it, I almost cried, y'all. I mean,
Oh.
I was about choking up and hearing his voice made that song for me.
Oh.
He made it. He brought it to life.
What do you miss most about George Jones, just as a person? I know. See, when I think of George, I laugh because he was so funny behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're on, but when you're, you know, when your hats off, George, he was just so down to earth, and I knew that some of his favorite food was sausage and sauerkraut, and pinto beans and cornbread. That's all he had to have.
Okay,
But
and you want to hear the funniest darn thing? Because his wife Nancy is a good friend of mine, and this made me laugh. I thought she was kidding. For breakfast every morning, he wanted raisin bran without the raisins. He liked the flakes of the raisin. He didn't like cornflakes. He liked the raisin bran, but he didn't like raisins. So God bless Nancy Jones. Every morning she picked the raisins out of his raisin bran. All right, so Harold from Austin, Texas. Where are you, Harold? Oh, right up front.
front row.
Would like to know who else besides your brother had a lot of influence on your career? And we know Mr. Stanley, we talked about, of course.
I would say Porter Wagner.
Right.
Porter was the first person who really, actually, now that I think about it, the first time the Wilburn brothers, Doyle and Teddy, we were working in Louisville, Kentucky, me and my brother, and Jean Shepherd. There was something that had to do with a flood, and she couldn't make it to the show. And there was Bill Anderson and Connie Smith. It was the days when they would have 4 or 5 acts, and they would come out and maybe do 20 minutes or something. And so Danny King, this DJ there in Louisville, Kentucky, called us up, my brother and myself. And he goes, can you just come out and warm the crowd up? You know, Gene Shepherd can't be here. And I said, oh, okay, we'll come. So it was just me. I was playing guitar and my brother, and we would sing duets. And we'd do some Porter and Dolly songs, and I'd do a solo and sing one song, and then Roger would sing one song. And Doyle Wilburn drug his brother, Teddy Wilburn, out of the dressing room and go, you got to come hear this girl. So they invited us to come to Nashville. And I was 14 at the time. And invited us to come to Nashville and to drop in. So we did. We took them up on it. But lo and behold, they were not there the day that we showed up that weekend. And we thought, you know, this was the day that you could walk into anybody's office. So Roger says, well, you know, let's go over to Porter Wagner's office, Dolly and Porter, because we watched them on TV. So we went. And here I was shaking all over. I was like, oh, my God, it's Porter Wagner. Oh my God. So Porter, he listened and he was so impressed. And then he invited us to the Opry. And we said, well, we can't stay. Our sister drove us up here from Louisville, and or down here from Louisville, which way is it? Yeah. And he said, well, you know what? I'll put you up, and I'll get my guy to drive y'all home, or I'll put you on the bus back home. So we stayed, and Porter and Dolly were taping the TV show that day. And he invited us to come see the taping of the show, and that was when I got to meet Dolly. I was in heaven. I mean, and we became friends, and between Porter and Dolly and the Wilburn brothers, that's how I began to start my career.
Well, and this is interesting to me because, you meet a lot of people, whether they're actors or singers, and when they get that much attention at a young age, as you did, sometimes their lives can go a little off kilter. You kind of get a little warped idea of life, and that didn't happen to you. You always seemed to, very steady, solid person. Do you think that was because of all the people around you and your family?
Well,
or are you warped and we just don't know?
Well, there was a time in my life that, when we're young, we rebel, and as we get older and we leave the nest, the first time I got married, I was 19, and I ended up leaving Nashville. At the age of 19, I married a drummer that was playing in the band when I was out on the road, and Doyle about had a fit. He came to North Carolina and was trying to drag me back. No. And I said, no, I'm not coming back. No, okay. But I think I started to rebel a little bit. Yeah. And we think we know it all at 19. We don't. But you have to learn. And I did. I learned a lot of things about life. And I think after playing in a lot of clubs and things like I did in North Carolina, I learned about the other side of life. Yeah. And it taught me a lot. And I think that's what I bring to the music. I think that's the reason that I can take a song and it's believable because I know what I'm singing about.
Yeah. You've seen it
Been
all.
Been there. I've seen it.
I'm glad to know there's a little wild woman in you, Patty Loveless. I'm glad to know that.
There still is.
Okay. You have been able to have, part of your heart and soul in the mountain music and in bluegrass, and the other part of your heart and soul in country music, and you've been able to do it all. Has that been a comfortable situation? And the reason because I asked Ricky this a little bit too, the way people sort of try to put artists in a box, and well, that's not country, well, that's not bluegrass. You have to be one or the other. You've been able to be what you want to be. Was that a hard thing, or did you just do it and ignore?
I was influenced by so many different genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love rock.
But
yeah.
I do too. I mean, I love classical music.
I do too. I cook by classical music.
And it's and even when you stop and think about Bill Monroe, believe it or not, he sort of jazz in a way he honestly influenced.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that how they play.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of rock musicians that I knew were very influenced by Bill Monroe. Now I'm telling you. And so what's so amazing today though is that you can stream the kind of music you want to hear.
That's right.
And I hope you continue to stream Patty Loveless.
We do.
But that's what's so great about technology today is that, if we don't want to listen to one style of music, we can go and listen to another. Mm-hmm. And, there's enough people out there for everybody. But the music I do is, it comes from the music I was influenced by. Mm-hmm. And I was influenced by the early rock and roll music.
Yeah.
And then, of course, some of the rock and roll music of the 70s and rock and roll music of the 50s. But then I was influenced by the country music of the 50s and 60s and 70s. And then you take, my father loved bluegrass music, and my mother did too. And so there's where I was influenced. So I just kind of blended it all together. But I have to say, Emery, Tony Brown was a big part of that, but Emery was a huge part of that. He knew what to bring out of me because he knew my musical influence.
So, if you could have gotten on stage with any rock band that you loved and at least done one song, which band would you choose?
Oh my goodness.
I know. I love so many of them.
Journey.
Journey, okay. Don't freak out.
When the lights go out in the city. Yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh. I love it. For me, it would be Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, Steve Perry.
Sorry.
Here's an example. Steve Perry's influence was Sam Cooke, and I love Sam Cooke. Oh my goodness. So and Steve Perry always reminded me a little bit of Sam Cooke.
And listen, your Mountain Soul albums have just been amazing. People love those. So when you perform on the ship, are you going to do all different types and styles of music that we love to
I'm
hear
going
from
to
you?
share some music, that some old stuff that back in the beginning of my career, and then I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit of country, hardcore country is what I call it. I've always been hardcore country, but I'm going to share some music that wasn't singles, that
Oh, good.
something I want to surprise them. So
I love that. All right. So, so I have to know one thing because on an environment like this, on a ship like this, it can be very dry. So, do you have to do special things when you're in different venues like this, just to keep your voice at
Oh,
peak?
absolutely. I mean,
Really? Okay.
Sometimes you got to worry about if there's a generator going or any kind of
Yeah.
fumes or anything like that, because hey, I have allergies just like the next person, and I deal with that. When I'm at home, I don't care. I just,
Right,
who has to hear me sing and coughing but you have to do vocal warm-ups, and I go through a little process of warming up my vocals. But
Can you show us one? Just a little bit of one?
you just start out by humming, just humming the scale, and the reason I learned this when I had vocal cord surgery, and they said, you know what, you got to warm up, because those vocal cords, it's just like you say a runner, you got to stretch before you start running, and you've got to stretch them, and in order to get warmed up, and it does, it helps a lot. And especially when you're kind of feeling a little bit sick, and it scares me to death sometimes when I think I'm going to lose my voice, because that's your instrument.
Right.
I don't. I'm not a musician like Vince that he could play guitar and go out there and get away with it, but not me. I got to depend on the guys behind me, and Lord help me if I had to sing a cappella.
Well, you're going to have to teach me, because I've been very, very dry on the ship, and I was trying to do a voiceover for a little DVD we're going to give to all of you, and I was having to say something about the Stars and their guitars or something like that, and it was early in the morning, and it was so dry. Every time I tried to say the word guitar, I would gag. And I could not get the word guitar out. So I'm going to have to learn some of your scales or something just to do a little warm-up. It was hysterical. We just couldn't get it done.
Oh, there's one that the doctors use, that doing all that kind of stuff with your lips.
Right.
I can't do that. I'm not doing that. But I'll do the humming part.
Okay, and I'll tell you the one that I do. And this was from high school.
Okay.
And it's not singing. It's just to kind of try to talk and get ready. Grumple Steiner, Tunnel Sonner, Doddle Doodle Deedle Day, Umpty Dumpty Tiddly Wink, you're a fink and that ain't all. So here's the rest, Nurney Nurney Neener Naw, Frog Legs.
All right. Is that like blame it on your line, cheating, co-dead beating, two-time and double dealing, me mistreating, loving heart?
Oh, look at her showing off. She just outdid me on that. I try to sing that thing with you, and I get it wrong every time.
Well, I won't try to sing what you just did.
Here's what we're going to do. When she performs, she's going to put music to my little limerick, and she's going to sing that for you. Right, Patty?
No, I want to hear you sing it. Teach me the words.
This has been so delightful. We have just been hungering after you and your music, and to see you here is such a blessing. We can't wait to see you on stage. Thank you for being here with us for All
Absolutely.
Access Pass.
Thank you for being
and
here.
And answering our questions. The great Patty Loveless.
Thank you all. Thank you, Lord.